Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Best of the West, a place for all things LCS and LEC. But this week we're doing a little bit more because it's off-season extravaganza. I'm your host, Shadows, and I am here with you guys on the date of Tuesday, November 26th, and I'm doing this earlier in the day. Just gotta put that in there because who knows what else Sheep Esports might release later in the day. I'm re-recording this, actually. I recorded this on Saturday initially, but then so much news dropped in the last few days, mainly about LCS roster stuff. So I'm going to be going over that stuff and LEC rosters. But before we get into that, I do want to quickly go over some like LPL and LCK stuff because obviously a lot of stuff happened. There's a lot of drama around the Zeus Jordan trade. So many other people have covered it, like Rival mainly, and yeah, I'm not going to talk about like the controversy. I'm just going to talk about the trade itself because me personally, I'm glad it happened because this roster was getting a little too good. I'm not sure if I talked about this in the last episode because I think I was still reeling over BLG's loss, but yeah, I do not feel like this roster this year at least did not deserve to win Worlds. Obviously, like, they played well, but like, I saw their domestic performance, okay? I saw how they played in playoffs. I saw how they played in regional qualifiers. The sheer level up is insane. Thanks, Ambulance, for that. The sheer level up is impressive, but for me, it kind of pissed me off because I don't know how to say this without saying it, but, you know, I'm not a fan of T1. I don't like seeing the same teams win Worlds. At least last year, in 2023, there was a bit of a good storyline, because it's like, oh, it was Faker's first time playing Worlds in Korea, because Season 4 and Season 8, he didn't qualify. So he got to, play in front of a Korean crowd at Worlds. He got to win Worlds in Korea. But, like, this year, So, yeah, this roster was getting a little too strong and was fathering the LPL a little bit too much. And as an LPL fan, I did not like that. So, I'm glad this trade happened. I guess we're going to have to see how T1 Doran looks. But, yeah. Moving on, I guess we should, I guess we'll stick on LCK first. So HLE's insane roster now, because we have to talk about the other side of that. There's T1 Dorm, but there's also HLE Zeus. So HLE Hanwha has an insane roster, which is not surprising because Hanwha Insurance has over $80 billion worth, over $80 billion worth of assets. So they have a lot of money they can throw at esports. I mean, you have a legendary T1 top side. You have Zeus and you have Peanut. Peanut is obviously a really good jungler. It's considered like one of the smartest junglers to ever touch the game. Like in terms of prestige, he was he was like the 13th or 14th player to hit 1,000 kills in the LCK. I know when he achieved it, he was actually only the third jungler, beat out by Score and Ambition. So, yeah, I mean, Peanut is a very storied veteran jungler and is very smart. And then you obviously have a 2-time world champion, a 2023 Finals MVP, world champion. And then you also have 2 other world champions. You have Zeka in mid, and then you have Viper in ADC. And Viper is just like a goated ADC. When people talk about the GOAT of ADC, there are 3 names that come to mind, at least for me. I mean, you guys can tell me in the comments below if these are not the first 3 that come to your mind, but for me, it's Uzi, Viper, and Ruler. And, I personally think it's Uzi, but whether you think it's Uzi or you think it's Ruler, or you think Viper is the greatest of all time in that role. I mean, even if you're not one of that last one, the first two, you have to put so much respect on his name. So, I mean, it's just an insanely stacked roster. Speaking of stacked rosters, we have to talk about Genji, because they brought back Ruler. So everyone on the top side re-signed. Chovy re-signed, Canyon re-signed, and Keen re-signed. So, yeah. They have Duro, who I think was on Fear X. This is like, last year was his first year in Tier 1, so he's almost like a Tier 2 promotion. Not quite, but yeah. I guess we're going to have to see how that works. And obviously you have Ruler, who is, like I said earlier, arguably the greatest ADC of all time. So yeah, we're going to have to see how that works out. How Ruler and Duro work out, but I have a feeling it's going to be pretty easy because it's Ruler. So the other side about Chovy re-signing is that Chovy is now going to JDG. It would have been really cool to see Chovy and Kanavi reunite. Yeah. It would have been really cool to see them reunite in the LPL, but they're not. I think JDG's rumored mid laner is now Shanks, but I don't know. But moving on, we're going to actually use that as a transition to talk about LPL. I guess the bigger one, I was debating which one is the bigger news. I think I'm going to talk about BLG first, because they did stick together. I think that's really awesome. I think they do really have a chance to win Worlds, and they were so close. They were literally one game away. Literally, it was just Game 4 and Game 5 where they fell short. They just were getting out-clutched by T1 with Faker. So it's like, it's Faker. I can kind of understand why you fell short to him. But yeah. So I think they need to maintain their level. They need to strive for greatness. And if they don't, they will probably fall short again. But I think if they keep pushing each other and stay well connected, it'll be good. And then the other big news is they're down to 16 teams. The LPL bought RA's spot, Rare Adam left. So I would not be surprised if another team like, I don't know, Thunder Talk or a different team ended up selling their spot and they went down to 15. It's probably going to stick to 16, but it would be interesting to see how they felt to, if they felt to 15. They're probably going to stick at 16. It's interesting because they're probably going to be the region that, you know, while I think this happened during MSI last year, they were still airing LPL matches during MSI because they have such a huge region. I would not be surprised, though, if they went down to 15 and tried to do that, because we have the condensed format now with 3 splits. I don't think LPL is able to do that. I'm really interested to see how the LPL season overlaps with the new Fearless tournament. But my guess is they're just going to continue airing. I don't know. I might be wrong about MSI, by the way. But I swear, they were like airing matches. I think it's because the season wasn't over yet or something. I don't remember. But, yeah, there's also Pei's rumors. Pei is learning Chinese. It's rumored that he's coming to JDG to take Ruler's spot, which is kind of ironic. He replaced Ruler on Genji. Ruler comes back to Genji, so he has to replace Ruler again. But I've also seen he could be on LNG, so that's another big LPL news. And also Milky Way is back to RNG, which really sucks. I mean, poor guy, man. Poor guy. RNG's just not been a good organization in recent years. So, yeah, that just really sucks. All right. And with that out of the way, let's move on to the best of the West part of this podcast. I spent 10 minutes going over that almost. So, all right. Let's start with the LCS, shall we? Because I think there's bigger news here than any other kind of movement in terms of roster, because Team Liquid and FlyQuest did not change a single player. And I'm not sure about this, but it seems kind of historic. I was seeing Don talk about this and say, this might be the first time in LCS history where a summer roster and the following spring roster is exactly the same for two teams. So that's kind of crazy. So I think that's something to think about. We have Cloud9. They have Thanatos, Blabber, Loki, Sven, and Vulcan. I know nothing about Loki, but he's coming from LCK Challengers, I believe. But Sven is back on C9, and I really want to talk about that because you have Sven, Vulcan back together. I think the bot lanes of the two aforementioned team and Cloud9, these are going to be by far the three best bot lanes in the league. Sven and Vulcan, when they were together, they just absolutely dominated. So I'm really interested to see how it works out. How quickly they click back together when you have this core of Sven, Vulcan, and Blabber. You have like bot lane and a jungler who are like historic in terms of like LCS strength. So I'm really interested to see how those three click together again. They have experience playing together. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I am interested to see how it turns out for all pro teams too. Like, where Sven and where Vulcan would place. I mean, who knows? Sven might end up being paired with like Core or Busio, and Vulcan might end up being paired with Jan or Masu. By which I mean obviously all pro. So it's interesting to see where, these 6 players are gonna place in the all pro teams for spring and also summer. But yeah, I'm really excited to see Sven and Vulcan back together. I think it's obviously Sven. It's been at Worlds for a while, but I think it's some domestic competition to keep Masu and Jan and Core and Busio like engaged. They're not as world class. It was not the players they were playing against, but considering how good Masu looked against Gen G, I'm interested to see how Sven will look too. Because Masu did not look like a rookie when he was playing versus Gen G. So, those 3 bot lanes are just going to be really exciting to watch and how they play against each other. So, yeah, I'm just really excited for that. When it comes to Dignitas, we have Surdy, Kine, and Tomo in top, mid, and bot. There's Spica and Isles. I have asterisks next to their name in my Google Sheet because I don't know if they're going to actually re-sign or not. Jensen did not stay on Dignitas, so we're going to have to see what that's like. But they could re-sign Spica and they could re-sign Isles. Isles, I think, is much less likely. I think they're going to replace him with a different support, mainly because you have Tomo, who is, let's be honest, a little underdeveloped. I know he was a shot caller for 100 Thieves, and, he brought a big voice, but, I'm not sure. They could go with like a very fresh roster. They could keep Isles, and you have Tomo and Surdy, who are like players that are coming from tier 2. Obviously, Tomo has more time, but Surdy's coming straight from Tier 2. This is going to be his first time starting on a Tier 1 team. So yeah, it's going to be interesting if they, want to go with like a fresh roster of Tier 2 players, or and like they have one main shot caller. I guess Isles isn't really fresh, but if they, not a fresh roster, but a more inexperienced roster, or if they replace Isles with a more experienced veteran support. We move on to Shopify. They picked up NRG's players a good amount. They have Fudge, Contracts, Palafox, Bevoy, and Seos. Seos is coming, of course, from CBLOL or LTA South. I'm not going to get used to that for a long time. But they have Fudge, which is really good. I'm glad he has another starting spot. It's been a while since we've seen him on the Rift, so I'm interested to see how he's maintained form, or if he has. Contracts and Palafox, obviously a really good mid-jungle duo. They're a bit of an aggressive one, or at least that's how they want to play, or at least how Contracts wants to play. So, yeah, I think we're going to just have to see how this team clicks. And then we have 100 Thieves, which is, of course, the guest provisional spot. I hope they stay in the league. I don't know why they wouldn't, because you have a brand player in Sniper, who is probably staying. Right now, the only two confirmed players are River and FBI, and I'll get to that in FBI in a minute, but right now their assumed roster is Sniper, River, Quid, FBI, and Hela. I expect Sniper to stay because there's no reason why he would leave. Quid, obviously, is probably going to stay. They could end up with a different mid laner. I don't know why, though. This dude was MVP. And then Ayla, I think, is staying because the thing is, the reason they needed to make a change in bot lane, it was either Tomo or Ayla who had to go. Because, let's be real, them together was not too great, and they were mainly because they were just a very inexperienced bot lane. They did not have much tier 1 experience, and it just did not go well. So that is unfortunate that Tomo had the one to go, but he's on Dignitas now. FBI, obviously, people made some noise about that because a lot of people think he's mid. I think he can very quietly be a good, consistent. I think he has the ability to be a consistent, quiet AD carry who's actually good. People say he's mid. They have a point, because he is very middle of the pack. He's not like usually one of the best ADCs, but yeah, I'm interested to see how FBI clicks with this roster. I know Tomo kind of provided a voice when he came in, so hopefully FBI kind of has that voice. Right now it's a very inexperienced roster, and so they needed another veteran player either in ADC or support to help level up their bot lane. Because when you have Tomo and Ayla who are just very inexperienced together, you just need a veteran in one of those spots. So hopefully FBI can kind of provide some shot calling or a veteran leading voice. And then we have Lion Gaming, Licorice, Audie, Saint, Henna, and Lions. As much as I'm not a fan of the death of the LCS and now becoming the LTA North, I think it is really cool that we get to have Audie in our league. Obviously, he's considered arguably not an LLA fan or anything, and I never was, but he's kind of like the go to the LLA. So the fact that he's in our league is actually pretty awesome. And then we have Licorice there too. So that will be interesting to see how this roster clicks together. They have Saint and Henna, who are from the LCK. So you have 2 LLA players, Licorice, and then 2 LCK players. So I'm interested to see how this roster works. And then we have to move on to Disguise, which is very important. This is the reason why I'm re-recording. Rest in peace, Saturday recording, but we have Disguised. There have been a lot of announcements of who they're picking up. Right now we have Castle, Exu, Abadage, and Huhi. Obviously, that's 4 players out of 5. We don't know who the ADC is going to be yet. It'd be cool if they picked up another Tier 2 player. I don't know who they would pick up. I'm really glad that Exu and Winsome are on starting LCS rosters because they were literally 1 game away from winning this past year's America Challengers for 2024. Obviously, it's going to be different next year because Disguise is going to be in that tournament with whatever LCS roster they have. They're going to have to fight to keep their spot alive. I don't think it would be Instinct because, let's be real, he was probably the worst player on FXS. But it'd be interesting if they brought someone up, especially since you have Huhi, who is like such a legacied player. He has so much experience. I think it would be almost robbing some Tier 2 players if you didn't bring them up. But yeah. It'd be interesting if they brought up someone like... I don't know who they would bring up, but yeah. So that is LCS. That's where we're at for LCS. Moving on to LEC. We have Fnatic with Oscar Renan, Razork, Humanoid, Upset, and Mickey. Upset back on Fnatic. That's going to be interesting, especially since it's Upset and Mickey. We're going to have to see what that is like. I'm looking forward to that. That's really all I have to say. I'm not going to try and make any predictions, but, I'm glad Upset is back on Fnatic, had a chance to go to Worlds. Obviously, the last time they made Worlds, there was a whole controversy because I think his wife's parents were sick or something. But I hope he is at Worlds in 2025 and he has a chance to prove himself against some of the best AD carries in the world. Then we have G2 with 2 changes. We have Broken Blade, Skewmond, Caps Hansama, and Labrov. Skewmond, I don't know much about. He's coming from an ERL, but he was apparently one of the most sought after players this offseason. So I'm interested to see how he performs and what kind of jungling style he is. I think a big problem with G2 was in the jungle because if you're going to be a good team, you need to have your jungler playing their game, if you know what I mean. Like, they need to be playing their style. And obviously, they tried that with Yike. But obviously, that is not something they did on the international stage. Yike is a very aggressive jungler. He wants to play, like, very dominant, aggressive picks like Kha'Zix and Bel'Veth and stuff like that. So hopefully Skewmond is more of a facilitative player who wants to get his lanes ahead because obviously, as we saw at Worlds, Broken Blade, Jesus, I don't know why I made that an R there. Broken Blade really leveled up last year at Worlds. It was a very stark contrast from the year before. In Worlds 2023, he honestly just looked like a liability to the team. But, at Worlds, he actually looked like he was a world-class top laner. I wouldn't say he was like 6th or 7th, but he was definitely, punching above EU's weight in terms of what we expected. So I hope Skewmond is a jungler that wants to get his lanes ahead, and that includes bot lane, which brings us to Labrov. I don't know what Hans and Labrov are going to look like, but I'm looking forward to it. I am optimistic about that pairing. Next, we have Giant X, which is almost a completely changed roster. They maintain 1 player. They have Lot, Closer, Jackies, Noah, and Jun. They picked up Fnatic's bot lane. They kept Jackies, and they have a different top jungle. I really don't know what to expect. from this team. We have another roster that is only maintained one player. That's Heretics. They have Carlson, Sheo, Camillu, Flackett, and Stend. Yeah, I don't know what that's gonna look like. Yeah, but these are two rosters we're just gonna have to see how they play. Obviously, with Heretics, I believe Sten and Carlson are coming from Tier 2, so they're less experienced. Lot is coming from Tier 2, I believe, too. He's definitely not coming from LCK Challengers. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these two rosters look. Then we have Carmine Corp with Kana, Yike, Vladdy, Kalist, and Targamas. This is a really interesting roster I want to see. Mainly for two reasons. One, because Yike is in a different environment. I'm going to see what he looks like in this very different environment. But two, there's Kalist, who's been hyped up for such a long time. He's finally old enough to be in the LEC. So, people felt like he was a little bit trapped last year. Like he was ready to be in the LEC, but he wasn't, because he wasn't, of age to be in the LEC. Because of, I think it was something with advertisers, like alcohol. I don't fucking know. Anyway, he's now old enough to be in the LEC. So we're really looking forward to that. And speaking of looking forward to, we have to talk about Koi, because we have Merwin, Elyoya, Supa, Alvaro, and in the mid lane, Jojo Pune. Obviously, it's the guy who's hosting Best of the West, and this is a player I want to talk most about across any of these regions, because we have, for the first time ever, a North American import in the LEC. We have a North American player in the LEC, and I'm really interested to just see how he plays against the best mid laners in the LEC, how he plays against Caps and Humanoid domestically now, how he plays against Larson and Nuke. I don't know if I would say Larson matters. It's in between Nuke and Jackie's for who else it would be, but Jojo Pune I feel like is at least going to be third. He's probably going to beat those two out for third place spot. So yeah, and then with Rogue, we only have Larson confirmed. I don't even remember who the other four players are, but it's like, Rogue, do we even care about this team anymore? Sorry if you're a Rogue fan. Moving on to SK. We have Genax, Isma, Reeker, Rahel, and Loopy. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this roster works out. It's 3 new players. And then on BDS, we have Irrelevant, 113, Nuke, Ice, and Paris. SK and BDS are kind of going with what Fnatic did last year in spring. They're bringing their Korean bot laners or Korean support. I believe Luby and Paris are both from LCK Challengers, so we're going to have to see how they play with Rahel and Ice, respectively. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. And I think both teams have 3 new players. I don't think 113 was on BDS last year. I think that was Sheo. So yeah, 3 new players. So that's also those 4 rosters with mostly new players, like Giant X, Heretics. We really have no clue what those two are going to look like. So Giant X, Heretics, BDS, SK. We really don't know what these teams are going to look like. But yeah. And then we have Vitality with Knock-Knocko, Linsas, Shawjek, Karzi, and Hillsang. Knock-Knocko, I think, was also a little bit hyped up. I think he was considered one of the best top laners across ERLs in general. So hopefully he looks good. But yeah, that's about it. If anything crazy comes out, I might do an episode in December. But until then, I will see you guys. But if that doesn't happen, I will see you guys in 2025. So, if you're a fellow American, happy Thanksgiving, and then enjoy your Christmas / Hanukkah / whatever. And I will see you guys in the future. Bye.